In the city of Philly, where the birds take flight. Eagle swag on the rise each and every night. Coach Markus got the scoop ready to ignite. From the lanes of South Street to the broad street lights. Dashing like a running back, hitting every play. 9 guys in the zone, never led astray. Talking touchdowns, talking game day. Huddle around the mic, hear what they gotta say. Fly like an eagle soaring in the sky. Coach Markus always standing by. Bringing the heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the battle cry. Fly like an eagle soars in the sky. Coach Markus always standing by. Bringing the heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the battle cry.
What's up, big dog?
What's good? What's good? What's good, man? How we feeling?
We feeling nice. Hold on.
Y'all
Thought I
know
had
what
my
it
background up and something happened.
Y'all know what it is.
There we
It's
go.
going to our Eagles off-season show. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channels. Pro Fan Talk, Chalk It Up Sports, the vibes, the energy. We always bring it to y'all live in full effect. You feel what I'm saying, Marcus? They
It
just
is
don't know,
all
man.
good,
It's a gift this week. We doubling up. It's a gift.
Doubling up, man. That's the way we do. A lot of stuff to talk about. We had got into the conversation early before we started, like looking at the stats of some of these rookies
Mhm.
and looking at them. Oh, hold on. Yelling in the whole house. Looking at all of the stats, everything that's going on, and comparing some of the rook stats. How was the competition? Did you get 4 sacks against Sister Mary's at a poor? You know what I mean? So just asking the questions is not right or wrong, just offering a different perspective, because we get so caught up in the hype of we got this person, we got that person, we got Jahad, we got Ty, we got APR, and APR got 16 sacks. Well, who did he get the sacks against? Kind of, and actually what made me kind of go into this a little bit was the conversation we had a couple days ago when we were talking about the dude from the Cowboys, talking all the smack about Jalen Carter, and then you find out
Tyler Booker, right?
Yeah, he hasn't given up a sack in 3 years, but that's because Jalen Carter's been gone for 3 years. And when you really do your homework, it's like, okay, hold on, there's a little bit more to this than that. So I was just looking at who did he get sacks against,
right?
You know, and you could say that against, you know, about everybody, about Ty Robinson, because we were talking Ty Robinson got a couple sacks. I think it was in 2023 against Colorado, which is great, but Colorado was trash. Their offensive line was trash. So how much do you count that? The flip side of that is, again, like we were discussing, ain't that what they supposed to do?
Bingo.
Against the lesser competition? Ain't that what
That's
ain't
the
that
part,
what you're supposed to pad your stats? So
yeah. I mean, it's funny when you brought it up to me. I didn't think twice about doing the science on how they got to their stat column, right? Like how did these guys put up the stats they did? I didn't even bother. I didn't bother to do the science. But since we were here, you brought up a very good side of the argument. The fact that, hey, all right, you got 16 sacks, Antoine Power Island, but who did you get them against? Did you get them all in bunches? You know, we've seen guys in the NFL have like a 5 or 6 sack game, and then they finish the season. And then they finished the season with like 9 sacks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
so we've seen it before. But the other side of the coin that we brought up was, okay, not only did he have 4 sacks against, let's make sure we got this right here. Not only did he have 4 sacks against Old Dominion, or 4 sacks against Boston College, or 3 sacks against Virginia, he made sure he was able to spread the wealth all throughout the season, be it if it was a half a sack or a sack, no matter who they played against. And my perspective is, and I think we share this, okay, maybe he did feast on bad competition with those sack numbers, right? Having 4 against Old Dominion, 4 against Boston College, and 3 against Virginia, right? Maybe he did feast on bad O-lines, but that's what you want. You want somebody that knows how to take advantage of the matchup. You want that. You know, we've seen guys who don't take advantage of the matchup, who get the opportunity against bad competition, and they just don't take advantage. We've seen that on the Philadelphia Eagles. We've seen guys do that. I'm not going to say no names, but we've seen that. So I like a guy who sees somebody who's food across the line and say, I'm going to get mine. And I'm going to make sure I come back for seconds and thirds and fourths. And I'm leaving with a plate, my G. And I'm leaving with a plate. So I like that. I like it. And again, he was able to spread the wealth. He had a second against Duke. He had a second against Clemson, a second against Syracuse, had a second against Miami, Florida, a second and a half against Rutgers, a half a sack against Vanderbilt. You know what I mean? And another thing that stands out to me is, you know, it don't matter where he at, home, away, he gets the sacks.
Right. He gets the job done.
It don't matter where he at. So I like that about Antoine Power Island a lot.
Because I got to thinking about that. I was like, are we going to put a lot of stock into what he did against lesser competition? However, you look at what happens in the NFL now. Obviously, that's a step up for everybody at every level.
Mm-hmm.
And even bad teams in the NFL are good teams, and they have all-star players. So you got to be careful with that. But I look at a situation like what happened to us last year when we almost lost to Cleveland, or we almost lost to Carolina. We don't want to be in that situation. So it kind of evens itself out at the next level, because at the NFL level, anybody can get got. So you got to be careful that you take care of business when you're supposed to take care of business, because everybody remembers that Carolina game in particular. That was when all the BS started about Jalen Hurts throwing the ball and A.J. Brown, the schism that was going, all of that. That was the beginning of the beef. And that just brings me back to, guarantee you, in the film room, when they were looking at the mistakes and Jalen was looking at the mistakes that he made, all of that type of stuff. As a team, when you watch the film, you always say, we almost gave that up because there's a play here, there's a play here. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So there's plenty of blame to spread around when you watching the films. And it's just all about making sure you win those battles when you're supposed to win those battles.
That part.
When you're supposed to. Because if we would have lost to Carolina, we'd have been pissed. We was mad when we lost that damn game to
Washington,
when Devontae drops that pass that he catches 99.5 out of 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So different things like that. And just on a petty note, we lose that game in Washington, and that just feeds all of that fuel to that fan base, not on how we lost, but simply because we lost.
But here's to your point, though, right? In hindsight, of course, it's easy to say this in hindsight, right?
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I'm actually glad it happened. I'm glad it happened because what it did was it gave them the latitude, or how can I say it? It gave them false confidence. It gave them a false sense of who they were and where they were, instead of really looking at the details of that game. They got so caught up in the result and not really thinking too much about how they got there and what happened in that game, and only focusing on the result. You can't get better that way.
Well,
you won the game, but at the same time, okay, y'all turned the ball over 5 times. Y'all really couldn't stop us. Our quarterback got hurt, right? So it gave them this false sense of confidence, right? Same thing with that Lions game. Gave them a false sense of confidence. Then when they came up against the real beasts in the NFC Championship, they had to get reminded, hold on, it's levels to this thing.
Yeah, but you got to pause right there. You got to pause right there, because the pushback is that confidence. They were playing in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah. But to your point, they got there, right?
Right. Exactly. That's my point.
They didn't play us 6-7 weeks in a row.
Facts.
They didn't play us 6-7 weeks in a row.
Facts.
They got one on us in the regular season, and it gave them a false sense of who they were in comparison to us.
But I guess that's where my pushback is. because to us it's considered a false sense of security, but to them, nobody thought they was going to the NFC Championship game. Nobody, and they made it. And you thinking, you scratching your head, how the hell did they get that far with a
Well,
rookie quarterback?
fair enough.
So,
But you know what I say to that? Who cares? You got there. You got
Yeah.
there. So
ultimately,
okay.
correct, you
Okay.
correct, you're right.
We've seen Cinderella stories before. You're not an anomaly. We've seen this.
Yeah.
You're not unique. You're not special. What makes you special is winning it all under your circumstances. You're not special. You took advantage of a fraudulent Detroit Lions team. You're not special. You're not. You barely got past the Buccaneers in the wild card. You're not special. You're not special.
Well,
We had to remind you, you're not special. Okay.
not that
Anybody get the pause. Anybody.
not,
What
not,
Kevin Hart
not that
say?
I want to get into apologetics about the Redskins or the Commanders, but just to keep it a buck, can you imagine what everybody would have been saying if Jalen Hurts would have made it to the NFC Championship game his rookie year?
They were still and lost. You know what they would have said? And lost, right? Same circumstance and lost.
Yes.
They would still be talking about him. Listen, they still talk about him the way they talk about him now. He won a Super Bowl.
But I'm just saying, look at the temperature in his rookie year and how much confidence people would have had, because you always gonna have the naysayers.
Mhm.
But I'll just say there would have been a lot less, because that's a good start. You know, let's see if he can do it again next year, which is the same thing we saying against about Jaden Daniels.
Well, remember his rookie year. But remember his rookie year, he only played like 2 or 3 games. You know,
exactly.
So I don't know. I don't even talk about that year. In my opinion, the first year starting. Let's use that year.
Yeah,
let's use that year. He took a team that came off a 4-11-1 season to the playoffs. Now you lost in the first round, but you took him to the playoffs. Nobody had the Eagles going to the playoffs. He got him to the playoffs. That didn't do nothing for his resume. That didn't do nothing That didn't do nothing. He got blown out like JD did.
Facts.
What are we talking about? So, again, I respect your position. You know what I mean? You my guy. You know what I mean? You're way more diplomatic than me. I'm a little bit more disrespectful. You know what I mean? That's okay. That's why we yin and yang.
Yeah, I think that's the difference for me. You from Philly, so your bias runs a little bit deeper. I played for Philly, so yes, my bias is deep, but I wasn't born here. You know what I mean? So I get that and I understand that, man. But
hey, listen,
it's just the perspective.
All jokes aside, though, I do think JD5 is a good quarterback, but I mean he's in a division with Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, so we're only going to be able to see that, but so far, so
exactly.
I'm happy for the Commanders. I'm happy that they feel good about themselves. See, sometimes when you're dealing with a chick that's not really used to looking good. You ever seen that movie She's All That with Freddie Prinze Jr.?
I think so.
It's the classic trope of the popular person gives
ugly girl get pretty.
Yeah, ugly.
Okay.
Yeah, nerd girl gets pretty. Bully girl gets pretty. The most popular guy in school glows her up. The classic trope.
Yeah,
in 90s and 80s media, right? That's kind of what happened with the Commanders. They were famished. They weren't a team that they were parched. They were starving. And JD5 came in and glowed them up a little bit. Glowed them up, made them feel good about themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But eventually, at the end of that movie,
it's got to come down to earth.
She gets reminded that, hey, you're still that girl.
Facts.
No amount of makeup is going to change who you really are. You know what I mean?
That's what we get to find out.
Just because you took your glasses off, that doesn't mean you still ain't Sally from chemistry class, baby.
Facts.
You know what I mean?
Hey, real quick.
I kid.
Before we go any further, I want to try to do this.
Yeah.
A mental note, like going forward, like at the 15-minute mark.
Yes.
Just a reminder, everybody, smash that like button right now.
For sure.
Don't wait.
For sure.
Do it right now. You ain't busy. If you're eating breakfast, just wipe the phone off when you're done.
It's free.
Free 99.
It's free. It don't cost you nothing. Love don't cost a thing. Nick Cannon, Christy D'Amelio. Y'all know how the movie goes. Love don't cost a thing, man.
Listen, just like the Eagles offensive line dominate in the trenches, we trying to dominate that algorithm. So smash that like button.
For sure. That
Smash
like
that
button is
one.
currency in this space, man. It really helps the content grow, helps new people find the show. And also all of you guys who are watching after the fact. Some of you guys probably can't catch the show live, but that's totally okay. Make sure you guys also hit that like button. Make sure you guys are active in the comment section. That helps the algorithm and it helps more people find the show as well. It's all about the engagement. It's all about you guys being active. So let's keep the energy up, you guys. Let's do it.
I was trying to find, because this is what really got me excited about Ty Robinson. And I'm trying to, I knew he played Colorado. This must have been 23. This must have been 2023 because Colorado got beat by Nebraska pretty handily.
Aren't they in the same conference?
I think
they're in the same conference.
Yeah. You know what? No. I know what happened. I was thinking about Ty Robinson while I'm looking at APR stats, and I was like, didn't they play Colorado?
Oh,
so
okay.
I got it mixed up. See, that's what happened when you get CTE from trying to block middle linebacker in the 90s, bro.
Now you stay on top of your appointments, man. I ain't trying that. you stay on top of your appointments.
But I'm trying to find out. It was a couple of plays where they had Ty Robinson at fullback, and I was like, I'm in. You got my vote.
They had him at fullback?
Had him at fullback.
That's crazy.
I was like, you know what? And maybe I'm reaching. Maybe I'm reaching. But to me, AJ Dillon, Ty Robinson, maybe Howie Roseman is already thinking they're gonna ban this tush push, so we got to come up with a plan B.
We got to beef up.
You got to beef up. And he scored. I believe he was fullback 7 times, and they scored 6 out of 7 times. Damn. So,
they moved BVS to fullback as well. So I think that was another thing too. I think to your point, I think they already saw the writing on the wall with this tush push, and thank God we was able to parlay that to a Super Bowl, right? But I think he saw the writing on the wall. You know, hence the AJ Dillon signing, hence bringing back BVS as a fullback because I like BVS at a fullback.
Wait a minute, who's BVS?
Bit of Van Sumeren.
Oh, okay.
Remember, there was a handful of concepts we saw last season where they had him at fullback, and I like the way he moved. I like the way he moved. I like the power we ran with.
Not for nothing, they might want to put that new Australian linebacker at fullback.
I've been hearing about this guy. Who is this guy?
I'm not even going to attempt to say his name because it took me a week of talking about Jordan Mailata, like where I was pronouncing his name on purpose. So, but anyways, he's another one of them dudes from Australia that played rugby, and it's like 6'2".
Hey, Chat, what's his name? Because I want to look him up because I heard something about him. But I didn't get a chance to really do the science.
Hold on, you know what? I got hold on.
Oh, is it Cameron Latu? Is that who it is?
Yes, I think that
is it Cameron Latu?
I thought it was something else. I thought it was like one of those long Samoan names, but it might be
what like Lincoln
no. Cameron Latu is a tight end. End. He should be listed as a linebacker.
Okay.
Brandon Graham. I'm gonna find it. What's up, Carlo?
I'm not seeing him, but no. Listen, this is what the Eagles do. The Eagles do a phenomenal job at finding the diamonds in the rough, right? And this is what happens when you have a proven. No, it's not Lincoln Vakalahi. He's been here for like a season or two. Lincoln Vakalahi's been here already. It's not him. It's somebody else. Carson Patu. I think that's who it is. Carson Patu.
All right.
I think it's Carson Patu because Lincoln Vakalahi been here already.
Yes.
He said last year.
Yep.
All right, Carson Patu. That's who it is. But yeah, this is what happens when you have a proven track record at developing, and it's not many franchises. This is why Howie Roseman. It's so important to have him in this building. It's so important for the relationship between Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman to be what it is. Jeffrey Lurie, groomed and developed Howie for over 2 decades. And what happens is you build up so much trust. There's not many organizations in the league that have a GM in the building that they trust like that. It's not that many. You know, the Chiefs will never move on from Brett Veach. You know,
Right.
the Ravens will never move on from DeCosta. The Eagles will never move on from Jeffrey Lurie. The Rams would never move on from Snead, right? Like there are certain organizations in the league that they just have that much trust and viability in their GM position. But the Eagles are I think the Eagles are more unique than all those other situations I mentioned because Howie Roseman has been able to survive cutting or trading Carson Wentz. He's been able to survive so many things that would get guys fired.
We forget about the Carson Wentz trade, man.
Yeah, listen, drafting Jalen Reagor and watching Justin Jefferson do what he did, that's a fireable offense in some organizations.
You ain't lying.
That's a fireable offense in some organizations. So the fact that he's been given the space and opportunity to mess up and clean up and improve and develop. I mean, he's been given so much grace, which is why a lot of teams struggle to get better because GMs are constantly making decisions for their jobs instead of making decisions that are just best for the long term of the organization. And Howie has been given opportunities to see a lot of his decisions follow through. Because how many decisions would Howie have made how many decisions would be deemed as bad if Howie wasn't able to see it follow through?
Right. I mean, look at what happened to your boy in Tennessee after that AJ Brown trade.
Perfect example. He got fired. You know, he got fired the day after that game, right?
Yeah. And here's another example. And I'm using him because he was here. Look at what happened when Joe Douglas got on his own. And Joe Douglas was considered like the next, he coming from the Howie tree. So there were a lot of expectations from him. And it just didn't. Now
he went to the Jets and, you know, it started okay. See,
yeah.
I don't think the Jets have a personnel issue. Personally. I think throughout the Joe Douglas era in New York, I don't think it's really been I don't think the personnel issue has been as bad as people make it to be.
Right. I agree. I think him missing on Zach Wilson didn't help his cause.
That will do it. And also, I just think bringing in Aaron Rodgers really offset things. Like
I wonder if he wanted to do that.
Firing Robert Saleh was the worst decision. Because I feel like Robert Saleh brought stability no matter what was going on.
Robert Saleh was a good defensive coach. Look at their defense while he was there. And again, I'm curious. Two things I'm curious about Joe Douglas. Did he want to fire Robert Saleh? And did he want to bring in Aaron Rodgers? And was Zach Wilson before him, or was that on his watch?
Zach Wilson was on his watch.
Okay. Did he? Because that's the thing I want to. Quarterback, I got to give it to him.
Let me go back to that draft class. Hold on.
But the Aaron Rodgers thing and the Robert Saleh thing, I wonder if that was his position, his opinion, or was that over his head?
So the 2021 draft, Trevor Lawrence went first, then Zach Wilson, then Trey Lance, then Kyle Pitts, then Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penny Sewell, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain II, Devontae Smith, Justin Fields, Michael Parsons. Yo, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the second overall pick. I ain't gonna lie, man. Sometimes when you draft it that high, that's just a trap.
Yeah,
like that's just a trap.
Because it's not many. It's not many. When I brought up the list about all of the number one draft picks that were quarterbacks,
I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Saleh wasn't sold on the quarterback class and wanted to trade back and probably get one of those defensive guys, get one of those corners. Because this is before they had Sauce Gardner.
So was that Zach Wilson that year?
Mm-hmm. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Kyle Pitts.
They were the second pick in the draft, correct?
Second overall.
See, I got to go back. I want to look at Zach Wilson's stats. Was he that bad, or was it the other stuff?
So he had 3 years as the prior. He was 3 years as the primary starter. He played in 34 games. He threw for just over 6,200 passing yards, 23 passing touchdowns, 25 in the say it again.
Collectively?
Yes, collectively. Just over 6,000 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 25 interceptions. Well, he also had 5 rushing touchdowns. So technically he had 28 total touchdowns, 25 interceptions.
Oof. over
Yeah.
3 years, then yeah, that is pretty bad.
He wasn't good.
Yeah, he wasn't.
He flat out wasn't good.
But you know what though? And I don't want to forgive me because I don't want to stay on this subject too long.
And personally, Trevor Lawrence looking a little shaky, if you ask me.
Facts. And I don't want to stay on this very long.
Mhm.
But when I see that, all of those stats you gave me, and then I see how Shador dropped, that's what pisses me off. Because they'll take the chance on that. They'll take the chance on that. And they sacrifice 3 seasons. 3.
Yeah, man. Zach Wilson didn't do anything at BYU that was any more impressive than Shador at Colorado.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So just to put the joke out there, so did he have good interviews or was everybody looking at his mom?
But let me ask you this question. Could it be that, and maybe this isn't even a good question because the league is still drafted bad quarterbacks no matter what. But
no matter what.
I was about to ask you, do you think Shador dropping? Obviously, we know it's for other reasons than football, but do you also think that teams are becoming more wary of reaching for quarterbacks to go around, or do you just feel like, nah, that was strictly personal? And because again, we've seen teams reaching for quarterbacks is nothing new under the sun. So I would hate to say that the Zach Wilson draft is the reason teams aren't reaching, because if you go past that draft class, you have the Kenny Pickett draft.
Well, here's my. I don't think it was specifically to Shador. I don't think it was personal. I don't think all of the teams were colluded that, hey, we don't want this problem. I do not think that. However,
okay.
And I'll use Nakobe, Nolan, Jalen, Carter as examples. When a piece of information gets out, everybody talks, which goes back into he didn't do a great job, as the story that was told by Brian Daboll. He didn't do a great job in interviews.
Did that story come from Daboll, or is that somebody saying a third of a tertiary source? You get what I'm saying? Like, is Daboll the primary source of that?
So I'm going to assume, because I remember seeing the story from Anonymous first, that there was a GM that said he had a terrible interview, worst interview ever. That was Anonymous. And then a day or two later, Brian Daboll told the story and put his name on it. And what made me pause was, I was like, Brian Daboll is not an asshole. He ain't an asshole coach. Brian Daboll is not somebody to me, I think like Sean Payton is an asshole. He's a good coach, but he's an asshole.
Right.
What's your boy from the Patriots?
Hey, why you keep calling people my boy, man? I don't like that. Who you call my boy earlier? You call
boy. That dude. What's that dude from the Patriots?
Bill Belichick.
The young coach that kept getting all them opportunities.
You're talking about McDaniel.
McDaniels, thank you. To me, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
Not your boy.
I appreciate that.
But you understand what I'm saying. Daboll is not that dude. Daboll is a good coach, just his ownership made the wrong decisions. Very similar to what the Jets did. But when it came from Daboll, I was like, that gave it a little bit more credence, because I always looked at Daboll as a good coach at a bad organization, and he don't want them problems.
Fair enough. You know, look, Shador, listen, I'm a large proponent of, it's not where you're drafted, it's not when you're drafted, it's where you're drafted. So
correct. And who's there when you get there?
Exactly. So I'm not in the grand scheme of things, I don't feel bad for Shador. In the grand scheme of things, I don't feel bad for him. I do think it's a sucky situation that he was in, but regardless, you got drafted, you're in the league, you got a chance.
Right.
You got a chance.
And Elsa's life, that is not a Daboll decision. That's an ownership decision. They was doing that before Daboll was even with the Giants. That ain't
Now,
nothing new for the Giants.
now to Elsa's point, though, Elsa brought up a good point. That Shador interview was a sham. I'm gonna tell you why. The Giants don't draft black quarterbacks. They never have.
Correct.
It's a sham. They'll sign one, like Dink said, they'll sign one, 1 year deal, 2 year deal.
Wasn't Geno there for a minute?
Briefly. But they don't draft the black quarterbacks. They never have.
Right.
Never have. And also, aside from Shador, this is a different topic. At what point, because you mentioned Dayball, he's a good coach, but he's in a bad organization. At what point do we hold coaches accountable for just walking into any door and taking any check?
That's a slippery slope.
I think I know why you say slippery slope, because you never know when the opportunity will come again.
Exactly.
I understand that. But if you're a good coach, and you stick with success, the job will find you. Because, perfect example. Remember that year? It was a couple years ago, as a matter of fact. Remember the year the Lions went to the NFC Championship? They lost to the San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah.
That was the same, that offseason. Ben Johnson's name was being talked about. Aaron Glenn's name is being talked about. Let's take it a step further. CJ Stroud that year. Who was his whatchamacallit? OC. His name was on the tip of my tongue.
CJ Stroud?
Yeah. His name was on the tip of my tongue. The OC for the Texans was CJ Stroud. His name is right there. I can't. Chat, help me out with that.
Not Nick. Bobby Slowick?
Bobby Slowick. So that offseason, right? Bobby Slowick was up for a head coaching job. Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
All those guys that were had phenomenal seasons, right? And you know what they said? They said, you know what? We don't like the jobs here. We're not going to put ourselves in a position to get fired. We'll circle back a year later, because I don't like the market right now for these jobs. Now that worked out for Ben Johnson. That worked out for Aaron Glenn. Now Bobby Slowick, it didn't work out for him,
right?
Because following that season, the following season, he got fired.
Right.
So he's somebody that probably should have took his opportunity.
Should have came out a year early.
Right. And it's an imperfect science. Every situation is unique. But I just think it's commendable when I see coaches say, you know what? Yeah, I'm up for a coaching job. Yeah, I'm that guy. But I don't like this situation. I don't like this. I don't like the circumstances in which I would have to take over.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is, I mean, to me, it comes down to personality and your experience, your personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never know what's going to happen. I'm sure Bobby Slowick at the time thought, hey, if I got some offers this year, I'll get some offers next year, not realizing what was about to happen. Because, I used to say the same thing about running backs. Running backs don't try to fumble the ball.
True.
They just do. Circumstances happen, and they put the ball on the ground. Coaches ain't trying to lose.
Right.
So you put your best foot forward. And again, you don't know when you're going to get those opportunities. You don't know. So you have to think long and hard, especially in the way the landscape is now,
mm-hmm.
with all of the information and what people are looking for and how you deal with people. It's still just as difficult. And you still get people that shouldn't get hired that do, and people that should get hired that don't. All you got to do is take a gander over what just happened the last couple of years in Chicago. So
I think
how many people thought Nick Gannon was going to do a good job in Arizona? I just listened to a podcast over the weekend, and they were talking about Gannon in Arizona, and they were blown away from the reports they were getting from Arizona about how much they liked him and how much he's kind of turning things around there. And I was like, and basically their take was, we knew he was a good coach, but I did not expect this. So to your point, there may have been some people that was like, I'll pass on that one. But in this day and age, can you really pass? Can you? Because you do not know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So Gannon's first season with them, they went 4-13. The following year, they went 8-9. So there has been a gradual. They doubled their win total. So that's a notch on the belt. Now, in my opinion, you got to be competing for your division. You got to make the playoffs now.
Exactly.
You got those 2 seeds. You got the dummy season when you first came in. You got the improvement season of 8-9. Now it's your 3rd year as the head coach. You got to make the playoffs now.
Right.
You got to make the playoffs. They spent a lot of money in the offseason. Get Josh Sweat all that money. They also drafted Walter Nolan. They fortified that defensive line. Marvin Harrison's another year better. Kyler Murray, when you going? Well, has Kyler Murray ever played a playoff game?
I'm not sure. I think you know what? We got this thing called the internet that'll tell us.
Okay, yeah, he has. He's played in 1 playoff game. I remember this game. They got smoked by the Rams. I remember this. Oh yeah, I remember this game. It's the game that people was like, yo, he sold out. I remember this game. Oh my God, he was awful. He went 19 for 34, completed 55% of his passes, 137 passing yards, no touchdown.
Was that when was after that? Was that when the Call of Duty stuff happened?
After this season, I think so. Because the Call of Duty stuff happened the year he got his contract.
Didn't one of the it was I think
that was the year the Rams won the Super Bowl. Yeah.
But
okay.
There was I believe there was a defensive player that left the team, got traded or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then after he got traded or was on his new team, he made some comments about Kyler Murray. And I was like, you was there for however long you were there. You never bothered to say that to his face while you was sitting in front of him. Wow. I thought that was very weird. And I'm trying to remember who that was. And maybe it wasn't even Kyler Murray, but I thought it was Kyler Murray. And I thought it had to do with the whole Call of Duty and not logging in his film study hours on the iPad and all of that type of stuff.
Mm.
And I was like, you was playing with the dude and nobody bothered to say anything to him? So where's the failure in leadership?
Good point, man. Good point. You know, it's man. All I know is the Philadelphia Eagles, they position themselves in such a way where they got somebody who doesn't spend most of their time on the video game.
Right.
They developed, they got the right people in the building, they got the right coaches, had a really strong draft class, you know, and that goes a long way when you're trying to sustain your success, especially at this level.
I'm trying to find this. This is gonna bug me now. I want to find this thing now.
Yeah.
Was it Patrick Peters? Nah, I don't think it was Patrick Peters.
Man, when they put that clause in his contract and that came out, I was like, oh yeah.
Yes.
I was like, oh yeah. And then they supposedly took it out because it embarrassed him.
Bryce Butler. Former Arizona Cardinals wide receiver slammed for insider Kyler Murray information. You know what? I don't think that was him. What's up,
Michael Felder with the super chat. Boom. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, big dog. Feel like I ain't seen you in a while, man. Hope all is well. You know? But yeah, a lot of people are asking about these grades. I saw you on Twitter asking people for their grades for the draft class.
Yeah.
You know, I saw some people say B minus, B plus, A minus.
Yeah, Tiffany. Hold on for a sec. Let me switch up real quick.
Mm-hmm. Because I think I asked people I asked people, what their grade was as well. I think maybe a couple of days after the draft, maybe a day after. I can't remember. But
Tiffany gave it an A.
hmm.
Who else? Somebody else.
Draft grades are they're always funny though. I mean, draft grades are always funny to me because like even though we give them, part of me is always like, okay, what's the criteria?
Right. S Blunt gave it a B plus. That's where I sit a B plus. And the only reason I gave it a B plus is because I thought we should have drafted a tight end. We talked about that before.
Yeah, I think a B plus is fair. I'm teetering between A minus B plus. And I got to my grade. I got to my grade because of value, how they handled the draft board, what they gave up to get what they got, what they were able to leave with from not only this draft but the following draft.
Right.
School pedigree, the RAS score for a bunch of these guys, right? So I just, I weighed it like that. Like I try to focus on things that I can tangibly measure and look at, because ultimately we don't know what these guys are going to be. We don't know. Now we trust the coaching staff to do what they're going to do with these guys, but ultimately, my grade is based on more so tangible things. Player production,
right.
Player pedigree, right? For example, Miles Hinton, his dad is a former All-Pro and Pro Bowler in the NFL.
I would just watch his conversation this morning where he was talking about his dad and how he didn't really know his dad was like that till he was like 12, 13 years old.
Yeah, when I think he said when he started taking it serious, that's when he realized his dad was really him. Yeah,
he said his dad really didn't push him into football. He let him discover it for himself, and he said he started watching YouTube videos, and he was like, "Yeah, I was about 13 when I realized my dad was like that."
Yeah.
So
yeah. Drew Kendall comes from pedigree as well. His dad played 13 years in the NFL on the interior, and I love what Drew Kendall said about it. He said that he said for anybody to play 13 years in the league, you got to be doing something right. And he said,
absolutely.
He said what I learned from my dad is, more than anything, recovery, take care of your body, attention to detail, technique, fundamentals. He said that's how my dad lasted 13 years in the league. Facts. You don't last that long in the league if you're not doing the little things right. He said that's my goal. My goal is to have the same kind of career as my dad. Regardless of what that looks like. I watched all those press conferences with all those guys, all the rookies. I really enjoyed those guys. You can tell a lot of those guys. It's funny. Pretty much all of them mentioned that coming in, they felt this little bit of this air of nervousness,
right?
Because of the organization that they're a part of now. They feel that aura. You walk into NovaCare, you see the Super Bowl trophy, you see the big Super Bowl logos on the wall indicating the victories. You see the legend. You see the legends on the wall. You see moments from that 2024 season because they redid the entire hallway in NovaCare with all the 2024 big moments, right? And a lot of those guys mentioned that, hey, we felt that nervousness coming in a little bit.
Yeah.
But the moment they put the helmet pads on and whatnot, and they was able to get moving, then they were able to really shake it off a little bit. But
man, I ain't gonna lie, bro. I look at what the Eagles have become, and again, I'm coming from my rookie year in the vet days.
You've seen a lot
at the end of Norman Brayman and the vet turf and all of that. To see what the Eagles are now, I ain't gonna lie. I remember when we won in 2017 and we got the invite, they had the alumni thing where you could go take pictures with the trophy. Now they do it at the stadium. But that first year we did it at NovaCare.
Right.
So to be able to walk in there and just to see the layout that they have when people come into the organization, man, I was like, golly. You talking about like green with envy. I was like, just like, it looked like a place that you want to belong to. And I remember, and I'm saying this because I remember in '93, we signed Tim Harris. I don't know if I've told this story before. I think I did. Tim Harris was from San Francisco. He was a big defensive end. He was about 6'5" and had like 7-foot wingspan. He was ridiculous. But he came from San Francisco, so he came from a winning organization.
Right.
And I remember him talking about like the WTF stuff. He was like, "What is this crap?" When he saw the Eagles locker room and the weight room, and he was like, "What the hell is this?" Like from what he was coming to. And I remember those conversations. And fast forward to now and what we've got in the locker room, the weight room, the treatment center, the cafeteria, all of that type of stuff, man. And it's just like how Jeffrey Lurie has basically transformed this to a landing zone. Even when I go to the alumni events, I ain't even gonna lie, I would rather sit and chill in the FanDuel rooms because they like look like little nightclubs. Eat the food and just chill because there's 180 televisions in there and enjoy myself and watch the game. I would rather do that sometimes than go in the stadium.
I was actually about to ask you, you attend a lot of alumni events, and how would you rate, or how would you define how the Eagles treat their alumni? And I mean alumni who played for, because to me it looks like they show love to alumni who, if you played a year there, versus they treat you the same versus you played a year or played 15 years there.
Right. All I know is most of the alumni events I go to, everybody's showing up.
Mm.
Everybody, you always gonna have guys that come from out of town and that sort of thing. And now you always gonna have some people that play for different organizations, and they kind of like compare, contrast, and compare.
Mhm.
But I ain't never had a problem with it. Every time I've gone, if I run into Howie, I can take a selfie, shake his hand. He'll say what's up, talk to you for about 30 seconds, then he'll keep it moving. Same thing with Jeffrey Lurie. Same thing with Jeffrey Lurie. And just having a situation where you can talk to, I can hook up with Willie T again, or G Cobb, or anybody that I play with. Whether big or small, seeing Tank, Irvin Fryer, all of those guys, Ike Reese, where he would dip down and dip back up to WIP, and just connecting for a couple minutes. I remember a couple years ago when I ran into, I was mad I couldn't get him on the podcast. Darren Sproles.
Yeah.
I was like, Darren, dude, you gotta hook me. Got his number and everything, just couldn't make it happen.
I
But
get it.
I'm saying all that to say, I'm sure all the teams do it. And I'm sure there's different levels of participation, but we always seem to have a lot of people that show up.
There's a
And
pride
there's a reason
involved.
for that.
There's a pride involved.
Absolutely. And then you multiply that by a Super Bowl.
By two.
By two. You know what I mean? So it's again, there's levels to it, because you got the alumni that come and watch the game and we have a good time. Then you got the alumni like Brian Dawkins and Trot and guys on that level. They come, but they got their own suite. So
hey,
I ain't mad at them.
Hey, we gotta respect the game.
Yeah,
respect
man.
the game, man.
I would always laugh because when they used to do our introductions on the field, I was always the precursor because I was right in front of Trotter. I was right. I would usually be like Vi Sikahema, me, William Thomas, and then Trot. So I would be somewhere in there. If Willie T didn't show up, then it was Vi, me, and Trot. So It would be a big applause for Vi, because every time Vi get on the field, they're gonna show that one clip of him boxing the goalpost. Then it would be me, and then it would be Jeremiah Trotter. So they would announce me, and I would get the claps based off of I'm still living off the crescendo of Vi Sikahema. So it would go up, come down for me. Like I think I remember that guy, and then they show Trot, and then it just goes nuts.
Hey, you got to bookend it.
Bookend it, man. I ain't mad.
Listen, you put the work in though. Like you grind it. Like it's not easy. It's not easy making it on that level. It's not easy even getting to that level. It's not easy trying to sustain on that level. It's not an easy feat whatsoever. The fact that you were able to dedicate yourself to your craft and get to that point and give yourself a fighting chance. I mean, some guys that only could dream of that. So I think that's phenomenal to me.
Hey, Stizzy, Willie T is one of my best friends, bro, to this day. Willie T was the best man at my wedding. So I've told that story before. Willie T was the vet that I kind of connected with my rookie year because we had a lot of things in common and love of computers. And we were two bunch of nerds playing golf. Willie T used to come through my apartment when I was in Ramblewood so we could play golf for free.
Mm.
He would come through like 6, 7 in the morning. We would play 2 rounds of golf, like 2, 3 times a week. That's when I got kind of good at golf. And he was even better. But yeah, Willie T is my dude, man. Still great friends to this day. He should be. I got to call him. I want to get him on the cast before the season starts because I think he could be in the league as a ref this year because he's a ref in the ACC. He's been doing that for the past 5, 6 years.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah,
That's dope. Wait, what were we talking about before? Because I know we started talking about the alumni events. We were talking about
what was I talking about? I don't know. We got into the subject of how the Jeffrey Lurie's transformed the organization. We are a destination organization now.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, I was just thinking about we were talking about the rookie interviews and the pedigree, right, and the grades, the draft grades, right. So yeah, you said you gave this draft class what, a B plus? You said
A B plus.
Okay, what went into that for you?
The type of players that we get.
Okay.
I honestly B plus A. I got to give Howie some bonus points. You got to give him extra credit because he drafted a linebacker in the first round.
First that pick. Part. You saw how excited Vic Fangio was?
Vic, man. So just from that alone, because what was the word on Howie? Like he don't like to draft linebackers. And okay, then Zach Bond came and then he did what he did. And then for him to go from that, what happened to TJ Edwards and then going through Moreau and the other dude we had in 22, to go from that to where we are now and picking Jahad Campbell.
Yeah, we had TJ Edwards, Kaiser White. Prior to that, we went through the Nate Gary era.
Yeah.
And then, Michael Kendricks, Nigel Bradham. Bradham wasn't that bad.
Bradham wasn't that bad. And even who did we get last year from San Francisco?
From San Francisco last year. Oren Burks. Oren Burks?
Burks, yeah, Oren Burks.
Oren Burks, yeah, he was solid. Yeah. But the gem and all that is Zach Bond, man. Like,
yeah. And again, I remember when we talked about Zach Bond. And it's like, to finally even go back a step further. I remember all of them drafts and this was open discussion, like on sports radio and everything. Like, why doesn't Howie want to draft from the SEC?
Yeah, it almost felt intentional, didn't it?
Yes. And then all of a sudden, we get Jalen Hurts in here and all of that changed.
I think it's one of those things where there was a point where I think Howie just felt this weird like notion or this weird angst of like, hey, I know something everybody else doesn't, or I want to be the smartest guy in the room, or it just seems like there are times in life where you outsmart yourself.
Yeah,
and you overthink things and make things more complex.
Yeah, that's the perfect. Overthinking.
You want to zig where everybody's zagging, and that doesn't zigging where everyone's zagging. It's okay, but every situation doesn't call for that.
Yeah, I agree. Dankberg gang. What's it like playing on AstroTurf? If you're referring to the vet turf, let me just say this: I am not from Philadelphia. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. So I was not familiar with all of the lore of the vet stadium.
Didn't they say that shit was like basically carpet on concrete?
It was bad, bro. And when I played my first game, like really got some snaps, I just remember thinking, it's not that bad. Then I remember getting in the shower and just certain parts of my body stinging because I had them rug burns that you don't really see or feel until, water hits it. And it's like, oh, like I'm stinging in different places. You know how like when you was little, you get scratched up and all that type of stuff,
Then when the water hit it.
man. And I was like, oh, okay, now I understand. And then now the second base place was the real problem because we shared it with the Phillies, and then they would put the carpet over where second base was.
Wasn't there
and
like a
about an inch
about
about an inch raised? Just imagine putting a puzzle piece in a puzzle.
that
Now
don't
it's
fit?
surrounded on all sides, but you put that puzzle piece in, it fits, but it doesn't go down all the way. So it sticks up about an inch.
Oh yeah, that's a perfect way to put that.
Yes.
That's an injury waiting to happen.
No, injuries did happen.
Yo,
a lot of injuries.
I was watching this old
Turn ankle.
clip where I think it was the old Hard Knocks, the Ravens, and they showed up for the preseason game. And who was the coach at that time for the Ravens?
We didn't want to play.
Was it Bill, the head coach for the 2000 Ravens? It was when he won the Super Bowl. They was coming off of it, I think.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
What's his name? That coach, head coach. He's very well known, very well respected.
Yeah, I can think of his face, but I can't think of his name.
I know his face, but I say it. Billick.
Brian Billick.
Brian Billick.
Yes,
I said Bill, but I have
Oh,
part of
no.
it. Anyway, Brian Billick. They showed up to that game, and he went to the ref. He said, "Listen, we're not playing on this."
I remember that. They canceled the
He
game.
straight up said, "We're not playing on this."
They canceled the game.
Yo,
And they were right to do that.
yeah, and especially in the preseason game, I'm not risking my guys on this.
They were right to do that.
And at that
was
point,
because what they had already had too many problems with the turf. They had changed it, but they were moving too fast. I think they just put it in too fast, and they just didn't have enough time to get it right. And they didn't play because it was like soft. It was like given, and like whoever did it, I can't imagine how much money they lost. The company that installed that and then installed it incorrectly, and to have your product cancel an NFL game.
it like would cave in certain parts. It was crazy. And that's why you have to give Jeffrey Lurie so much respect, because he bought this team in what, 96, 94?
No, 93.
He bought this team in 90. He built this team
93.
in 93.
My rookie year was the last year of Norman Brayman. Norman Brayman sold the team in the offseason. And then 94 was when Jeffrey Lurie had it. Jeffrey Lurie that was his first year. So I was there when Jeffrey Lurie bought the team.
Yep. It was the official purchase came in May 6, 1994.
Yep. And if you look at what he bought it for and what it's worth now,
185 million back then. Now it's worth in the bill in the B's now.
bruh.
And the thing is, like, you got to give Jeffrey Lurie so much credit for what he was able to do with this organization. Like just the way he flipped them. Like this quite literally was like pimp my ride or like flip my house. You know what I mean?
That's a good analogy.
He to turn the vet into
exhibit gonna be in the doors when you walk in over here.
Lincoln Financial Field, to weather the storms he had to make, to gut out all the excess nonsense of the organization, to bring this much respect to our organization. Like this is the ultimate investment. You know what I mean? You know, he and honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't take him long.
No, it didn't. Took him a couple seasons.
In the grand scheme of things,
things started to turn around when he got Andy in here.
When he got Andy, they drafted Donovan. You know,
Ray Rhodes was good. It was with Ray Rhodes, it was good until it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then you needed that. Andy Reid just took it to another level because his football mind was just above board.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, he was all about production and being good at his job. He didn't care what you look like. He didn't care where you was from. Are you good at your job?
Are you good at your job? And he had to, and this is, to me, this is the big thing that Jeffrey Lurie deserves all the credit. He had to overcome the stench of letting the greatest defensive tackle in NFL history walk away.
Reggie White.
He had to overcome the stench of that. Reggie White. I remember after Reggie passed away, and we did this big alumni thing at the Naval Yard to celebrate Reggie White, and his widow was there, and she told the story. She said, "We did not want to leave Philadelphia, but Norman Brayman never offered a contract. So what were we supposed to do?" She said that. And for Jeffrey Lurie to overcome that issue, one of the most beloved players in the league, let alone Philly, and he did it.
It's nuts.
And Jeffrey Lurie has taken his franchise to a whole nother stratosphere. And now he got rings to match.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. And I think that's why when you bring a full circle to today, the Eagles have no problem paying you when you produce for them.
Right.
The Eagles would never let if you're elite at what you do. I think Jeffrey that obviously he wasn't a part of that Reggie White situation, but it's a part of the history of the organization you bought. So you inherit that. And
correct.
I think he looked at that situation and said, we're not going to put ourselves in a position like that ever again.
Correct. And just to answer Delco Green, yes, Dick Vermeil started winning and he went to the Super Bowl and they lost. But when you look at the macro, when you look at the whole picture, even with Dick Vermeil was Tom Coughlin before Tom Coughlin.
I think Dick Vermeil won in spite of.
Correct. But I'm looking at it from the standpoint of there were still a lot of people that really wasn't crazy about Dick Vermeil because they knew he was not even in his era. He was
neurotic.
He was neurotic, and he would work you to death. And for the most part, I'm still talking about the facilities that we had, in comparison to all the other teams at that time. Philadelphia was at kind of like at the bottom of the barrel for even when they were winning. Didn't nobody want to come and play in the vet?
Yeah.
Did nobody do that?
And Vermeil, he may work you to death, but he was working that much harder. He was sleeping in the damn building.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like to the point where he had to retire. He had to retire and get his mind right.
Yeah. So it's we have seen, those of you who remember the Randall years and things like that, even the Reggie years, understand that you have witnessed and been a part of one of the most influential culture changes in NFL history. Yeah. You got to say it like that because that's the buzzword everybody throws around. We got to change the culture. We got to change the culture. People don't really understand how difficult it is.
What that means. I feel like they underestimate what that really means.
Yes, it's not just getting a quarterback. It's not just
signing the right players. Like culture is a top down thing.
Top down. Yep.
Not a bottom up. And too many organizations think they can shift their culture bottom up.
Right. And every culture, and you can shift the culture, but that doesn't mean your culture is going to work. Look at what the dude I don't know what his name is, but the new GM with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ain't he like 34?
Yeah, bro. He looks, bro. I'm 30.
He's a young cat.
He looks like he like he still should drink Similac. That's how young he looked. I saw him at the draft.
You know what the outlook on him is? All of the old heads are looking at him like, "Hey man, this ain't Madden. You might have the money to throw it around like it's play money, but you're not setting up these rosters like you would on Madden. You got to put some thought into that because he's trying to be like the new young gun.
Yeah, James Gladstone. James Gladstone.
So it's very interesting to see how people do that. And back to the original point, it is very difficult to change a culture, and it's very most people don't really understand what it means to actually do that. And
that position, you have to command the room. One thing they say about Howie, and real quick, let's get to Afrado. We're not gonna forget your super chat. Can you pull that super chat on the screen real quick so we don't forget about Afrado? It's a $5 super chat. But here's the thing, right? When you're a GM, you can't just come in and just think, oh, let me just do my job and that's it, right? You have to command the room. You got to be somebody that demands respect. You got to be somebody who sets a standard and expectations. And what I say goes. So
Right.
So James Gladstone, young man, it's more than just bringing in personnel. It's more than just spending the money, like you said, man. It's gonna be so important for him to establish himself. It's gonna be so important for him to just grow up in this situation because
Grow up in the situation.
now you're not just director of scouting from the Rams. You're not just director of scouting strategy. Now you're the GM. Now the future of this organization is essentially in your hands. Some of the things they say about Howie Roseman. They say, listen, Howie, he's great at what he does because he's hard to work for.
And he took his lumps.
He took his lumps.
That's the thing that this kid doesn't. He ain't taking no lumps.
A lot of these guys, though. A lot of these guys get these jobs not taking the lumps, though. A lot of these guys not taking any lumps, though.
Is he a legacy?
It's a good question. Let's find out.
Like, how did he get this job at such a young age?
Well,
is he a Nepo?
I'm not entirely sure, but he worked with the Rams for. He worked with the Rams for a while. He spent 2017 to 2024 with the Rams as director of scouting for 2022 to 2024 and the director of scout strategy for 2019 and 2022. I'm trying to find out more about him.
Yeah. But the thing with Howie is he took his lumps, and there's experience in failure, and he got the rare opportunity to continue. So he took his office to the side and waited for this opportunity to come back, not knowing that the opportunity even would. Mm-hmm. So Howie Roseman has taken his lumps, and now he's considered to be the best GM in the business. Nobody wants to take the lumps, or a lot of people, you don't get the opportunity to take your lumps.
Let's see here.
Kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier about the Jets. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't pop his Achilles, does Robert Saleh still have his job?
Interesting point.
If Josh Allen doesn't throw 3 picks in a game, does who was his offensive coordinator? Was that Matt Canada that ended up getting fired after that game?
Matt Canada was the coordinator in Pittsburgh. He got fired.
What was the because the coordinator in Buffalo got fired after that game, after that Josh Allen game. Matt Canada and
you're talking about Ken Dorsey.
Yes. Does he get fired because I guarantee you they didn't coach that in practice. They're not coaching Josh Allen to throw picks like that. And it's funny how situations like that, especially when you look at the situation like Saleh, what happens if Aaron Rodgers doesn't pop his Achilles?
That's a good question. So this kid Gladstone, he's not a legacy guy,
okay.
but he gets a lot of credit for the Rams' most previous 2 draft classes, because remember the Rams leveraged everything for that 2021 Super Bowl.
Right.
They leveraged everything. Remember the whole notion was, hey, fuck them picks. Remember that?
Yes.
So he had to find a way. They gave him a lot of credit for helping discover a lot of the talent that they were able to bring in via the draft throughout that time on limited draft capital.
Right.
They were able to he gets credit for unearthing Puka Nacua, he gets credit for finding guys like Steve Avila, Kobe Turner, Byron Young.
So he's knocked it out of the park a couple times.
So he has a proven track record of evaluating talent.
Gotcha.
He has a proven track record of evaluating talent. But evaluating the talent and building the roster is two different things.
Well, absolutely, because
And making
just
the
like
selections is two different things, right?
he is basically, it's the same comparison when somebody goes from a coordinator to a coach. Now you
Yeah.
just can't concentrate on one thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So when you a talent evaluator, you got one job.
And yeah, and also as a GM now, remember you're evaluating talent still because this is in you, but now your opinion isn't the only one. You have to be able to trust the people around you too,
Correct.
because you can be so smart and think you know what you're talking about, and you can have your head so far in the clouds you can forget that you have people around you that's here to support you, and you got to trust their vision as well. Because when you're so used to being the one that's trusted, it's hard for you to trust others.
Yeah.
You're so used to being the one that people trust. Now you got to
be the smartest person at the table.
Yeah, now you got to trust somebody because you're the GM, and every decision, no matter what, it's going to fall on you. So
absolutely,
it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's young,
Very young.
And with being young comes hubris. So we'll find out.
We're gonna learn today.
We'll find out, man.
I want to go back to that super chat.
Yes, Afrado.
About Makuba.
Yes.
Because I was watching a little film on him. I want to go back and watch film rather than highlights.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the way he plays. He plays bigger than he actually is, and I like that. Now everybody's going nuts because he knocked out that quarterback. He didn't knock him out, but he put that big hit on the quarterback in that game. That's the play that everybody brings up. Was that against Jackson Dart? I think it was.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
But he's a very good cover guy. I was watching one play. I was trying to bring it up, but I don't want to play it.
He's rangy.
Yeah. There's I was watching the play, and he was in one position when it dropped back. Then the camera focuses on the quarterback. Then he throws the ball to the opposite side of the field, and somehow Makuba is there for the pick. And my first thought was, first of all, that had to be maybe 1 second, maybe a second and a half. How the hell did he get on the other hash and back that quick to get that pick? So he's got good anticipation. He's got I saw a couple of plays that were film study plays. Mm-hmm. He made the play or he made the tackle, but immediately I'm like, they worked on that in film. They recognized that in film because it was like a screenplay, and he was basically right on the running back's tail. As soon as he caught the ball, it was like a 2-yard tackle for a loss. I was like, that's good recognition. That's film study right there.
Yeah.
So for somebody to be prepared, and it's one thing to be prepared, it's another thing to be able to act on what you see in the moment.
Yeah.
And he can do that.
Yeah, because sometimes you think a little too much, but to have those instincts to know where. See, to me that speaks on the guy just knowing, understanding his keys, knowing where you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
Understanding space, knowing like you said, play recognition, right? Knowing what you're supposed to do in a situation when certain circumstances are presented to you.
Yeah.
A lot of guys fumble that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
One of the evaluations for Smile Mondon Jr., and this isn't my evaluation, but this is what I've read from scouts, is that he has all the tools you want at the position. Strong, fast, can do everything you need him to do, but sometimes his instincts and his physical capabilities aren't in alignment.
Yeah. And the icing on all of this, most of the players we're talking about are defensive players. And to your point you made earlier, to see Vic Fangio excited to get a particular player in, that's going to be good business for us.
Yeah, and also like Smile Robinson again. I mean Smile Mondon, that evaluation. Let's say it is true, right? Hypothetically, let's say it is true. He couldn't have been drafted to a better situation. With coaches that understand how to bring or how to sharpen those instincts. Vic
100%
Fangio,
correct.
Bobby King, Jeremiah Washburn. You've been drafted to a building, to an organization that knows how to handle their linebackers.
Right. We're in a good situation, man. I like it. Thinking about, after talking about everything, I don't get mad if you upgrade a B+ to an A, because like I said, I got to give Howie some bonus points for drafting a linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if it happens once, you got lucky. If it happens twice, it's a trend. Ain't that how it goes? And that's twice we didn't get the linebacker / edge that was one of the best in the draft, that had a shoulder injury to drop to us in the 30s. It's too similar. It's too similar.
I think Howie's not. I think he's not overthinking this thing anymore. He's like, listen, we like the talent. Hey,
Yeah.
we evaluate the guy. We evaluate the injury. Hey, look, we trust our staff. We trust our nutrition staff. We trust our athletic trainers. We trust our doctors here. Hey, if it ain't got nothing to do with the ACL or whatever, we can fix it. We can fix that. But even then, Landon Dickerson came in with, I think, an ACL injury.
With issues. Yep.
Issues.
Absolutely.
This is what happens when you trust the people you have in the building. When you trust your ability to evaluate risk versus reward. I mean, we are in a very special era of Eagles football.
Absolutely.
A very special era of Eagles football.
Absolutely. And just thinking one more thing before we get out of here. I got to go shopping.
No, I feel you on that, man. Me and wifey did some grocery shopping yesterday, so and I got to do some Mother's Day shopping pretty soon. So
the one thing that Howie said, I don't know if you heard this. He said, we are not drafting players to be backups.
I love that. When he said that, I love that. And I love how he lets his people in the building, in the room. Hey, what's your thoughts on this guy? Everybody speaks.
Let him
Everybody.
know.
Hey, what's your thoughts on this guy? Hey, I love this guy. I love this guy. Hey, we like this guy. He does need to work on this, but we like this guy. I would pick him here. Howie says, all right, let's do it. Like Howie just looks so much in command.
Nobody knows everything.
He looks like he looks like a CY young pitcher that understands where all his basemen are. You know what I mean? He has full command of his entire toolkit. He just looks in command.
He does. He's in the Avatar state, bro.
What? I like that.
All y'all cartoon heads, y'all ain't ready.
Ultra instinct. You know what I mean? He's there. He's there right now.
Absolutely. But man, we're gonna get up out of here. I got some stuff I got to do.
Hell of a show, man. You know how we do it, man.
Yeah, man.
Tapped into some past, present, and future. That's what we do here.
Yep. All right, man. We're gonna keep it going next week. I'm trying to get Big Barrett on. He was down in Florida fishing. I'm still working on that. I want him to talk
real
about
quick.
Big boys.
Last thing, S. Blunt brought up a good point. He said, what did y'all think of that video? He said, did it feel like nobody wanted to deal with the Eagles? Because what was happening was Howard would make them an offer, and they would either take a similar offer or the offer they would take was just so outlandish. Because there was a moment in the video where he said, "Wait, what did they give up? They gave up their first. They gave up their first this year and last year. Oh, I mean, this year and next year. Oh, well, we see why nobody's making a deal with us." People were giving up.
I mean, there's truth to that. I think there's truth to it, but at the end of the day, it's a good situation to be in.
Yeah.
Everybody wish they had our problems.
Hey, offer you something you can't refuse on the day of my daughter's wedding.
But man, we're gonna get up out of here, man. We appreciate y'all in the chat. It was fire today.
Sure.
So before we get up on out of here, make sure you continue to smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to Pro Fan Talk. Make sure you subscribe to Chalk It Up Sports. We're gonna keep bringing it to you until the season rolls around again, and we're gonna be in full tilt.
Exactly.
I will also be hitting up 4:00 this afternoon. Got some WNBA action coming up, so I'll be streaming that. So that'll be fun. If you're a WNBA fan, holla at me. But we're gonna get up out of here, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, Tone.
Likewise, my friend. Likewise.
And, I will see y'all on the next one. Go Birds.
Go Birds and fly fly.
In the city of Philly, where the birds take flight, Eagle swag on the rise each and every night. Tone Tone and Markus got the scoop ready to ignite. From the lanes of South Street to the broad street lights. Dashing like a running back, hitting every play. 9 guys in the zone, never led astray. Talking touchdowns, talking game day. Huddle around the mic, hear what they gotta say. Fly like an eagle, soaring in the sky. Tone and Markus always standing by. Bringing their heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the battle cry. Fly like an eagle, soars in the sky. Tone and Markus always standing by. Bringing their heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the battle